Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. In the last part, we went around the outer portions of Ganondorf's castle, completing and destroying the 6 barrier challenges we had to get in order to access the inner keep, and now it's time for us to take this place on. The inner keep itself is mostly just an enemy rush. You're going to be facing all of the bigger enemies we fought throughout the latter portion of the game. Dinalfos / Lizalfos, I still don't know if those are the same enemy or not off the top of my head for naming. Some Stalfos, even 2 Iron Knuckles at the same time later on. You might have noticed towards the end of the last part, I caught a couple of fairies, and you may have noticed I even had one in a bottle already. This is where they're probably more likely to come into play than during the final boss. As well, the final boss hurts. The Iron Knuckles, especially if you don't have the double defense upgrade from getting all the Skulltulas, those Iron Knuckles will mess you up if you're not careful. Or if you fight 2 at once. More on that at 11. And by 11, I mean like 2 minutes. Actually, wait. It is almost 11 p.m. That's coincidental. Now, one thing I don't find exactly necessary about this dungeon is that it still has a boss key for some reason. I mean, I get why for the purposes of having the dramatic cutscene of, oh, you're entering the final door. But at the same time, it doesn't need to have one. This dungeon doesn't even have a dungeon map or compass, for that matter. So it's not even technically a normal dungeon by the game's considerations, I believe. With that said, if there's anything you still want to get done in the world, such as any of the Skulltulas, any of the heart pieces, anything that I've done in this LP that you haven't, you're coming up on the last chance to do so. While there is no true point of no return in this game, you can return as long as you don't enter the final door during the castle keep just fine. You still want to get it done now just because it's the best time to, thematically speaking. It feels weird to load back into a Zelda game that's not Breath of the Wild to do stuff. Also, we got 2 Iron Knuckles here, and you want to be careful in this room, as if you attack both of them at once, you have to deal with both of them attacking you at once. And, that sucks. I have died doing that multiple times. Ow, that still really hurts. Thankfully, the Begoron sword is still really good. With that said, this is also going to be the last time I use it, as during the final boss, the Master Sword is programmed to do more damage than the Begoron sword. I think the Begoron sword is technically programmed to just do less damage, but still, you're gonna want to put on the Master Sword for what's coming up. And a nice little detail I like is that we have a classic Zelda theme at this point playing. This is the Ganon theme that I believe has been around since at least A Link to the Past. I forget if this was in Zelda 1. I haven't listened to Zelda 1's soundtrack in a while, so I actively can't recall if the final dungeon had this as a theme. But as we climb this staircase, the piano's slowly getting louder. Alright, people. Let's end this whole thing off once and for all. One final door. The Triforce parts are resonating. They're combining into one again. The 2 Triforce parts that I could not capture on that day 7 years ago. I didn't expect they would be hidden within you 2. And now, finally, all the Triforce parts have gathered here. These toys are too much for you. I command you to return them to me. Link, I can't help you. Because of the waves of darkness, I can't get close. I'm sorry, Link. Oh dear. Final boss against Ganondorf. To start, looks a little bit familiar. We're back in Phantom Ganon territory. He's gonna throw a projectile at you, and you have to hit it back. The difference between this and Phantom Ganon is that first off, there's a platform you can fall down to. You'd fall back down into the room right after the boss door if you go down there, and there are some magic upgrades if you need them. The biggest difference between this and the Phantom Ganon fight is that you don't have a Navi. You can't Z-target directly onto Ganondorf during this fight, so you just need to get good at timing with sword slashes or bottle swings. Like with Phantom Ganon, enough volleys of the tennis ball that is light back and forth, and he gets stunned. When he's stunned, you can't just go over and hit him, though. You need to first hit him with light arrows and then go all in with the Master Sword. Again, Master Sword does more damage than the Big Goron Sword during all this. Spin attacks are your best bet. After enough damage and stunning, he does another ground pound wave to get rid of random blocks around the area. The only blocks that'll never actually fall are the corners, so if you ever are getting low on platform, just rely on that. He does notably have one other attack beyond this, where he starts gathering a giant ball of energy above him. When that gets released, he sends out multiple homing projectiles at you at once. There are two ways you can tackle that attack. Either light arrow him while he's charging it, because he leaves himself incredibly open, or, and I've only done this successfully once, when he shoots out all the homing projectiles at you at once. If you time a spin attack just right, you'll reflect them all back at him, and he'll get stunned for that, and then you can just shoot him with a light arrow, and then rinse, wash, repeat. Here's the move in particular. I just choose to attack him outright because he's open and it's faster. The great evil King Ganondorf, beaten by this kid? Link! Ganondorf, pitiful man. Without a strong, righteous mind, he could not control the power of the gods, and... Link, listen to me. This tower will collapse soon. With his last breath, Ganondorf is trying to crush us in the ruins of the tower. We need to hurry and escape. Please, follow me. I apologize for the stuttering in this part, by the way. My recorder did not like the screen shaking like this for some reason. But now we have a 3-minute escape sequence with Zelda. There's going to be chain-barred doors that only she can open. You just need to get to the end. Zelda, I don't think, has her own health bar. Your own health bar is the actual threat here. With that said, don't void out during all this, as the timer stays, but you go back to the top of the tower more often than not. There's gonna be a few enemies to fight along the way, but nothing of actual threats. Now, notable, Ganondorf, as you noticed, was not a very hard fight, but there is a way to tell how much health he has. The further into his health bar you get, the more tattered his cape becomes. And also notably, you may have noticed, he coughed up red blood. Most versions of the game don't have that. In NSTC version 1.2 onwards, which is the version I grew up with, he instead coughs up green blood. In fact, most instances of blood that aren't from like the clam enemy bubble, death bubbles in the water temple were usually replaced with green, if they weren't green already, in that version onwards. And that was mostly done to keep the game's E for everyone rating, because apparently the ESRB noticed that and went, do we make this E10 plus? Or wait, was E10 plus even a rating back then? It may have just been almost a straight team then. The escape sequence itself, though, not very threatening. There's a lot of rooms, but Zelda herself moves at such a decent pace that you never have to worry about really running out of time. The only time where it becomes a potential threat is this room here, as we need to fight another 2 Stelphos. Depending on what equipment you have, whether or not you're using the Big Goron sword, how their AI feels, or how you got used to them you've gotten to fighting, this fight can be over really quickly, or not. And when it's not, you might get a bit low on time. I think the lowest I've ever finished time here without, like, getting 0, which I believe is a game over that happens, I think was down to, like, 15 seconds. Thank you, Link. Now let's hurry. Aw, she dropped some hearts because she's happy. I am at least glad they gave you that health restoration, as between here and the end of the game, there's another couple of enemies, and that means you might not end the game at full health, and exiting here at full health is a good thing to do, for reasons that totally aren't the reason why there's still another 20 minutes left in the parts timer. Stop looking at the timer, I'm Zap Brannigan. Okay, Zelda, you can be taking a much more direct route than this. The only other enemy along the way is going to be a Re-Dead, who is placed in a very strange position. I think, technically speaking, we're about to go through the main entrance to the castle. I guess Link decided to take, like, the back balcony route or something. Oh, so we never learned... Zelda? I can't tell if she got stuck there because I went ahead of her too far and she has some sort of, like, checkpoint railroading, or if it's because I got damaged and she was shocked too much in a row. Because honestly, I'm not sure how Zelda herself's AI behaves during this. All I know is that she moves at a decent enough speed. I don't have time for you, Re-Dead, but apparently you have all the time in the world for me, and I don't like that. Stop it! Ah! I really should not even be bothering with that, Re-Dead. Just go on the far end of the bridge and run away from it, because honestly, you do not need to fight it. And with that, there's only one room left to go, and it's a simple stair climb up and out of the castle. This escape sequence isn't that stressful despite having a relatively small time limit. Let's get the hell out of here! Oh boy. Glad we got out of there in time. It's over. It's finally over. Link, I'm sorry I couldn't help you in the battle before. Don't worry about it. What the... It's never good to hear a thud after everything's fallen. Oh boy, I have a bad feeling about this. Especially given the shape of this clearly arena-shaped thing. There's no way he's going to hold me back again. This time we fight together. Final boss against Pig Ganon's first chronological appearance in the franchise, in terms of the actual timeline, and we don't have our sword. This is another reason to go for the Big Oron sword, as for this first phase, you're without the Master Sword. Megaton, Hammer, Deku Sticks, I guess. Actually, no, you can't use those in Adult Link, can you? Yeah, just use whatever you can to just attack his tail. Your big strategy here is to stun him however you can. Light arrows are the best method of that, but fire, ice arrows, Deku Nuts, anything you got that can stun before, can generally do the same here. You then want to roll between his legs and then attack the living shit out of his tail. Be careful though, he hurts. He's about as strong as your average Iron Knuckle throughout the game in terms of pure attack damage, so be careful. With that said, if you run low on magic power and health and you don't have any fairies or potions, you can lead him around similarly to an Iron Knuckle and have him destroy the various debris around the field for health, magic, I think even fairies in one item's case. There are ways to make this fight easy, thankfully. With that said, I also gotta say, this is my favorite Ganon fight in the series purely because of the atmosphere. The dark lighting, the foreboding lightning storm, the kick-ass song. This fight just has the tones of an epic. Link, the Master Sword is here. Hurry up. Gotta get it. Also notably, this is the only time you can actually get a real good look at what Ganon actually looks like because of the lighting. And he has the threatening look, but I gotta be real, I gotta take away points from the 3DS version here. Use the Master Sword. Destroy Ganon with the Sacred Sword. Indeed, you can only do the final blow against Ganon with this thing. In the 3DS version, they made this fight a lot brighter visually, which, yes, you can see how threatening Ganon actually looks, but the presence of just his eyes glowing over the dark, shadowy figure just makes for a more imposing fight. With that said, he's far from the hardest boss in the game. He hurts the most, but he's not exactly hard. Mind you, part of that is because I've gotten 100%. I have double defense. I have a lot of health. If you're just doing like heart pieces you might find along the way and the natural heart containers, this fight can be a threat. But when you play the game as many times as I have, you can beat this guy with no real problem. Notably though, after you do get the Master Sword, he does get a lot more aggressive, not only his attacks, but also he starts recovering from stuns a lot more quickly. So you need to be a bit more aggressive about how you go through this fight the farther in you go. Also, make sure you buy some blue potion at Kakariko Village, as it's the best way to get magic and health back in the case that you're running low on either of them like I am right now. Honestly, the only Ganon fights in my eyes that get as close to this in terms of scale and feel is so far just the final boss of Breath of the Wild, as that thing's messed up design and low lighting during most of the boss fight makes for impressive atmosphere. Twilight Princess's fight is cool, but doesn't feel as good. Oracle, dual story Oracle game Ganon fight is cool, but again, not much in the presence. It's been a while since I last played not Ocarina, Four Swords Adventure, so I forget exactly how that one feels, but I remember it wasn't as good either. This is just great. This is a great fight. I'm using my power to hold the evil king. You use your sword and deliver the final blow. Sure thing. Let's make sure that the hero fails timeline in the Hyrule Historia never happens, which is still one of my least favorite bits of that whole thing. The end. Six sages, now! Ancient creators of Hyrule. Now, open the sealed door and send the evil incarnation of darkness into the void of the evil realm. Curse you, Zelda! Curse you, sages! Curse you, Link! Someday, when this seal is broken, that is when I will exterminate your descendants! As long as the Triforce of Power is in my hand. Thank you, Link. Thanks to you, Ganondorf has been sealed inside the evil realm. Thus, peace will once again reign in this world. For a time. All the tragedy that has befallen Hyrule was my doing. I was so young, I could not comprehend the consequences of trying to control the sacred realm. I dragged you into it too. Now, it is time for me to make up for my mistakes. You must lay the Master Sword to rest and close the door of time. However, by doing this, the road between times will be closed. Link, give the Ocarina to me. As a sage, I can return you to your original time with it. Okay. When peace returns to Hyrule, it'll be time for us to say goodbye. Now, go home, Link. Regain your lost time. Home where you're supposed to be. The way you are supposed to be. Thank you, Link. Goodbye. And that's it. That's The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, without a doubt my longest Zelda LP to date, and I'm not surprised just given the structure. This game is amazing, an absolute landmark in gaming. With that said, far from my favorite Zelda game. I don't think it's the best game of all time. It's just a great game. When it comes to my favorite 3D Zelda game, that goes to this game's sequel, Majora's Mask, which has some similar problems to this, particularly in control, which I don't think was really smoothed out until Wind Waker. But my biggest problem with this game comes down to, I don't like Hyrule in this game. I remember it, but I just don't find there to be much to do here. It just doesn't have much character to it. And part of that is just due to the game's age, I admit, but there's a large part of this game that I just find okay. Whereas other Zelda games, future 3D Zelda games, I think their worlds either have more personality, more of interest to do in them. This game flies mostly on its dungeon designs, which are mostly really good dungeons. The items are cool, the formula works, the music in this game, barring the dungeon themes, is fantastic. It's a proper adaptation of Zelda into 3D, despite in many ways it being viewable as a 3D A Link to the Past. I know it pisses some people off to hear that, but it's kind of what it is. I love this game to death. I just think almost any other Zelda game that followed up on it just did what it was trying to do better in a lot of ways, or just did more unique things. With that said, I can't mistake this game's role in my childhood and growing up because I've been playing this game for most of my life and I love it to death. And gonna get a bit more candid than I usually do here, so I'm sorry if my language gets a bit more colorful in the next few minutes. This LP also represents the end of an era for my life. For those who aren't aware, for the past 5 years, I've been enrolled at a college studying various design types. I started in college, I think I made a video about this back when, in game design, but I eventually transferred into communication design and finally graphic design. And this LP, when I started recording it at least, I was still a student, and as of last week, I have graduated. I'm in life, and it's really fucking weird to be done with school after 20 years of going to it. That was what I structured my life around for so long, and now it's finally over. And I look back over the past 5 years, and I've clearly done a lot of growing. Technically speaking, both in terms of skill and the way I do the videos here on the channel, but there's definitely been times where I look back and I've made a lot of mistakes. Don't ever let anyone tell you that going through high school and college, you're gonna be perfect. You're not. It's just not how it goes. I look back even as far back as last year, and I go, wow, what an absolute moron. There are mistakes I've made that are gonna be carried in my heart for the rest of my life, just because they taught me to be better. And in a way, that's also why I did this LP, because this game to me represents such a big part of my childhood that it's me looking back one last time before I move on to new things. A lot of new things, because I'm looking forward to career, even though it's in the middle of the quarantine stuff, so getting a job's gonna be rough. There's a lot to look forward to in the future, as there is for this channel. And additionally, I realized this when I was recording the credits. My college is also bookended by Zelda. The first LP I fully recorded and uploaded in college was A Link to the Past so many years ago. Whereas now here I am, ending off with Ocarina of Time, the follow-up, barring Link's Awakening, technically. And there's just a level of catharsicism to that, to me. This game means a lot, and I'm using it as one last goodbye to a time I've spent a lot of time in. I've met a lot of good people, lost some good friends due to really bad choices, and otherwise grew closer to others. And now I'm tearing up. Part of that's due to the music, because the soundtrack's great, but also, I just look back, and I would never have expected us to have grown over the past 5 years to over 260 subs. I would never have expected that I would have graduated magna cum laude, which, yeah, a bit of humble brag there, but, like, come on, it's cool. And I want to thank you all for sticking around all these years, because I have a lot of plans coming up for the future, just as this game looks towards the future and its ending. One last thing, I believe eventually your Scarecrow song plays on the screen if you leave it on long enough, but mine never did for one reason or the other. I don't know why. But with that, before I go on to my salutes and farewells, I should note that the next Zelda game I'm going to play is either going to be Majora's Mask because sequel. I might redo my Minish Cap LP because it's that outdated in my eyes. Plus, I did have problems with that LP because it was the PAL version accidentally, which means I couldn't get one of the bomb upgrades and such. Or if I can get it to work, I might bring in 3 cursed letters on a certain non-Nintendo system because those games are just an absolute memeable treat. And yeah, that's about it. Can I get one last explosion because I've grown really attached to doing that this LP? Thank you, future me. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great night. Take care. And I'll see you guys next Let's Play, whatever that may be. See you guys then.